Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 3 replays in the German Tier 8 Premium Medium Tank, the Wraith Panzer 58. Now if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the Wraith, it is a Panzer 58 Mutz, but it's got a whole heap of spaced armour over it. Now that comes at a cost, and that is in terms of your mobility, because instead of being that little bit quicker like the Mutz is, it is now at 44 kilometers an hour. But you do have a whole heap of spaced armour, which can be handy. It's not the type of spaced armour where you go, yes, I can now bounce everything on my medium tank, because you'll still get penned fairly easily by most tanks you'll face anyway. But it just means that you get a lot of awkward ricochets off this thing that you wouldn't get in the Mutz, because the Mutz is easy to pen. This thing can ricochet, you know, a few shots that you sit there going, oh, should I have bounced that? Okay, I'll take it, you know. And also, Hesh, He, Heat, they don't like this thing, generally, and they don't really go through this thing. And that means that you can get a lot of shots absorbed from heat rounds that you wouldn't expect. Like, I mean, it's a rare occurrence, okay, but I have had heat rounds from Yang Panzer E100s absorbed, which, again, doesn't happen very often, but it's just one of those things that can happen with this vehicle where they would butcher and automatically go through something like the Mutz. You can just get random heat absorptions that you go, I shouldn't have had that happen, but I'll take it, you know? It's a nice thing to have, but it does come at a cost of the mobility, sorry. The mobility does get that little bit more sluggish, that little bit more slow, because you do become heavier as a tank. You do lose that top speed and go down to 44 kilometers an hour, which is a little bit slow for, well, it is slow for a medium tank, and that can be a pure pain. But this gun is rather fabulous on this vehicle, and that is because it has been buffed many, many times. You've got a 6.05 second reload, which is nearly 3k DPM, with 300 alpha, which is nice. It used to have 240 back in the day, then it got buffed to 280, and then they moved it up to 300, the same as they did the 58 Mutz and the Indian Panzer's gun. It's got 212 penetration on the standard AP, with 259 premium APCR pen, with 1,000 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, with 1250 meters a second on the APCR, which is very, very nice, and that means it does fly quite easily on the premium round. You have a 1.75 second aim time, which means this gun aims in very, very fast, and with an accuracy of 0.86 and 1.33 during movement and rotation on the build that I run, the gun doesn't bloom out that much at all, which means you really don't feel that 1.75 second aim time, which is fantastic anyway. It means your gun is already ready to go, and you can pretty much snap shots fairly easily in the old Wraith. And with the 0.27 accuracy with the build that runs as well, it means that, yeah, this gun is absolutely fabulous. And with good DPM, good alpha, it is a very, very nice tank to use when you get into those situations where you can just keep the gun firing. And it is very good for that. You do have 10 degrees of gun depression as well on the Wraith, which is something that I must caveat on the Wraith that's different to the Mutz, is the spaced armour. The spaced armour causes you issues with your gun depression. You can see it here that we're just seeing on this little ridgeline, and you're going to see the problem there. I couldn't get the gun down, and that's because I was looking over the side. Because of how the spaced armour juts up on the side, you do not get 10 degrees of gun depression over the side of your vehicle. I'm not quite sure what the gun depression is over the side. It's more like 6, 7, or 8, something in that region. But you lose a lot of gun depression when you look over the side of the tank. So bear that in mind. If you're coming over a ridgeline to try and get shot at someone, you really want to get the best gun depression you can, you have to go over with the gun pointing over the front of the vehicle. That's how you're going to get the 10 degrees of gun depression. But yeah, you do have that 44 kilometer an hour top speed with an 18 kilometer an hour reverse speed, 600 horsepower engine, which is a 13.45 horsepower per ton ratio, which means you do hit the 44 kilometers an hour. You just feel a little bit more sluggish than your non-awakened, well, your non-Halloweenified compatriot, right? You've got 1,500 hit points, which is a decent slab of hit points for a tier 8 medium. 46 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is actually faster than your turret rotation speed, which is 45 degrees a second. So that's something to bear in mind, that your turret does turn far slower than your hull. And you've got to be very, very careful of that. That if you turn the opposite way to where you're trying to keep your gun on target, it means that the turret will turn with your chassis, which is, yeah, a bit of a pain. The terrain resistances don't hold this tank back that much at all, and you do have 311 meters of steel concealment on this vehicle, which is pretty okay. You can make that better with the Caminet if you wanted to, but I try and make it so that this gun is as fabulous as it can be, rather than helping the camo pretty much. Also got 486 metres of view range on this vehicle with the build that I run, which is, you know, fairly standard for a tier 8 medium. And the one thing that also you need to note with this vehicle is it does have a 150% silver boost, which isn't the best in the universe. That's actually on the lower end of tier 8 silver boosts. So this thing doesn't quite make as good a credits as some of the other options you can get in the Monster Hunter Earn-Up, essentially. Because it is one of those tanks that you can pick up in the Monster Hunter Earn-Up this year in 2024. So what do I run in terms of a crew and equipment on the Wraith? Well, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, with the Advanced Loader, the Gun Stabilizer, and Optics. The Optics to be able to get that 486 metres of view range, the Gun Stabilizer to get the gun as good as it can be, with accuracy during rotation and movement, the Advanced Loader to get that near 3k DPM, all 3 gun perks to make this gun sing as good as it can, with the Camouflage Expertise and Silent Driving to make the camo better generally, and then the camo while moving better as well, so it's a bit harder to spot this vehicle while I move into position to get myself in a nice farming location without, well, being seen generally. And also it helps in certain locations where you get on maps like Westfield, Malinovka, Prokhorovka, where there's bush locations that you can fire through, and it helps you to stay unspotted while you're in those certain situations as well. So this first game, which has been on Hell's Highway, which is one of the Halloween maps, we're up to 3.5k damage, 736 assistance. It's been a tier 9 game, and we're just trying to get shots into this WZ-111 GFT, which is something we've got to be careful of because he's got very good penetration, and he will, well, he'll go through us with absolute ease, unless he fires heat, in which we could end up ricocheting or getting his shot absorbed, right? But we get a shot into his drive wheel, which tracks him in place. Perfect. And we should have gone for the lower plate. We end up going for the tracking shot to track and pen there, and we should have just gone straight for the lower plate because he was a one-shot already and we could finish him off. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is a Dragon Type 62. 3.8k damage, 1200 assistance, 3 kills. We've had a very good game here on Hell's Highway, and realistically, that was the perfect scenario for defending Highway in general. We sat on that ridgeline at D7, farmed away, we won the town, and then didn't really push out of it, and then fell back to the other side of the ridge that we were sitting on to defend the cap when they came for it, like the WZ-111 GFT did, and the Panzerjäger. That's just how you defend Highway from our spawn. If you try and rush across the AB line, you die pretty quickly, and as soon as you win the town and you try and rush down the JK line towards their spawn, again, if they've got 2 or 3 TDs sitting there, you'll die pretty quickly. It's one of those things that you've got to win the town and then come back and defend your base from the people that will be pushing across the ABC line from their team. That's just Highway in a nutshell. So we're now chasing the Dragon. We did get spotted, so it was like, oh, he must be somewhere over here in this corner, right? Tucked away behind maybe one of the buildings, and he just spotted me as I was crossing. So we're just trying to find him. This is obviously where the mobility of the Wraith is a little bit more painful, because as we're climbing up hills and going across the open, we're not going to get anywhere as quickly as we did in the standard Panzer 58 Mutz. But there's the Dragon. He gets spotted. Go for the snapshot. Flies true. 311. And, well, that guy is probably... yeah, well, he's dead. There we go. And we finished the game with a really nice total there in the Wraith Panzer 58 on Hell's Highway. We finished with the victory. 3 kills, 4.1k damage, 1200 assistance, the Confederate, the High Caliber, the First Class, for that 1912 base XP. A pretty damn nice game there for the Wraith on that map, where, again, it just showed the strengths of the Wraith, where you can just keep this gun farming, you'll have a great time, and you can use the 10 degrees of gun depression to fantastic effect. You've just got to be careful of the spaced armor on the side of the tank, because that does bump your gun up and then kill your gun depression, which can be pretty frustrating, and especially when you don't realise you're about to look over the side of the tank as well, and you're on the ridgeline, and all of a sudden you've got the tank in your sights, and you're like, yes, I've got you, and then all of a sudden your gun goes blink and looks into the sky. Yeah, it's a bit awkward. It can be a bit awkward on the old Wraith. So here we are in the second replay, and the second replay we are on Berlin, and on Berlin what I'm going to go to do is go to the position at G12, because I can go hull down on the little ridge line, and I can shoot up the 1-2 and try and spot that. I don't really want to get stuck into the brawling heavy lane that is 9-0, because it just won't really go very well for the Wraith. That's not what the Wraith is built for. It's built for that more hull down experience where you can limit the amount of tank that people have to shoot, and then you can also only expose when you need to do the damage, which is, well, it's what tanks want to do, because it's not the most heavily armoured vehicle in the universe. It's not going to get stuck in with that brawl, because if you do that and try and brawl in it, it's going to go downhill very, very quickly. So we've come to this position here at G2, and we managed to get the shot in to shut down the SP1C. Just looking for the shot into the LTAMX-90, and sadly we just fired a little bit too late, and we ended up missing the shot. But most of their team is cowering behind the corner at D3, or on the corner at B4. So what we're going to do is close the distance, and then we can poke around the corner and just play peekaboo with this very nice DPM that we have in the 300 Alpha. There is a TD in the corner at A1, but it's a G-Row, so I'm not particularly scared of it. We're just going to poke round, shut down the ELC AMX-90, and good night, Mr. French Tier 6 light tank. We see the Churchill AVRE. We get the shot through the drive wheel, it's tracked and penned him, but now he's pulled back. I'm going to see if I can distract and attack the two tanks that are around the corner. So we see the Citadel. It's like, hello, Mr. Citadel. Have you met my DPM and gun? And this is where the Alpha is really nice now on the Panzer 58 Mutts and the Wraith. When you hit him for that consistent around 300 damage, it is very, very tasty. Especially on a tier 8 medium tank, because like a lot of the 390s to 400 Alpha tanks that are at tier 8 obviously have pretty long reloads. When you got 300 Alpha and you're consistently rolling for that 280, 290 to 310, 320 in that range, and you've got a pretty good reload. I mean, 5.8 seconds reload is very, very nice. It just feels so impactful on what you're doing. It's even when you're in bottom tier matchup. The only thing you've got to do in the bottom tier matchup is actually pen the shots, right? But having that Alpha is a very, very nice thing. And like I said, the standard shell velocity on the AP is very average, because the 1,000 meters a second shell velocity is an average shell velocity speed. It's not good, but it's not bad, right? But 1250 on the APCR is very, very nice, and that does mean that you can cut down the amount of lead you have to give on targets, and it just makes a general impactful feeling on the gun handling. Because the faster the shell velocity, generally the gun handling of tanks does generally feel a little bit better, and a bit nicer to use. So they've currently got two tanks on the cap, and it's like, okay, they've got two guys on the cap, we need to get back in cap. So we ignored the Edelweiss, we're going after the Panther 88. I know he could pen me, but I know that I will kill him before he'll ever have a chance to kill me. So we shut down the Panther 88, we've got to get back to reset either the Lerva or the Tiger P that's in there now. But the Tiger P gets reset, which means the Lerva is the other one that needs to be reset, and we get a shot through the side of his turret. But we're going to pull back to make sure that we're not going to take that 360 Alpha hit that the Lerva has these days. Put another shot through his lower plate. He's now distracted with the other tank that rushed round, the light tank. So we put a shot through his tracks. That ricochet nearly hit us. Wow, that was close. And we managed to finish off that Lerva for the top gun, and we finished the game with a really nice total there for the Wraith Panzer 58. We finished with the epic victory. 6 kills, 4.1k damage, bit of blocked, 110,000 silver, the high caliber, the top gun, the first class, with that 1873 base XP. A pretty nice game there for the Panzer 58 Mutts on Berlin in a pretty decent matchup. And we're on to the third and final replay of this video, and we are on Severogorsk. And on Severogorsk, it's going to get very corridory very quickly, but because of the way that Severogorsk is, we'll be able to go hull down at the position at D3, be able to get nice shots into the people that cross the AB line, and because we've got good DPM, again, we will be able to farm up pretty nicely in this vehicle. It's one of those things that you want to try and do. If you can get yourself to those early positions to catch people out and just keep putting 300 alpha damage rounds down range, you will have a great time with the Wraith. The problem naturally is, like I say, that 44 kilometers an hour top speed. It is pretty slow in that regard, and it means it does struggle a little bit up to that top speed, like you're seeing here. And it also means that on quite a few situations, you will miss out on that early damage from the early aggressive positions, because you just don't get there in time. And that means that they generally get to the safer positions, which then screws you over, and you can't do too much. Not like the Mutts. The Mutts could get there much, much quicker. Now, you could make it faster if you wanted to and run the traction system instead of something like the gun stabilizer, because the gun could still be pretty decent without the gun stabilizer. It's just that it irritated me and the bloom was annoying. So I felt like, you know what? I really wanted to make this thing be a snappy, snappy gun, and that's why I run it. But if you wanted to go faster, you could run the traction system, and you would go at 48 kilometers an hour, which is still, well, it's fairly average medium tank mobility, but it's pretty handy to have. So it's down to you and how you want to play the vehicle. Same as if you want to make it more stealthy. Instead of 311 meters of still concealment, you could have it much, much lower with the camo net if you wanted. It's down to you and how you want to play the tank. So this poor Carnarvon managed to get perma-tracked. He's finally realised he was screwed there, so he's managed to actually put his tracks back on. We're just aiming for the shot into the Crusader SP, and that was a pixel shot to pen that guy right there. Absolute pixel shot. We took the shot, we penned it, it is what it is. We missed the second shot though, sadly, and of course, he actually moved out into a better position for us to actually be able to shoot him after we'd fired, because of course he did. Now the SP1C gets unspotted. We get a nice shot into the tracks there. Unfortunately, he still has a repair kit, so he puts the tracks back on, and he manages to get himself safe. Now, he's within the range of a one-shot, possibly, if Alpha roll, well, if I get a nice RNG roll, but he's keeping himself safe. We actually spot the SU-152, who gets absolutely deleted. And an Iron Rain. It's like, hello, Mr. Iron Rain. Do you fancy getting demolished by my team? It would be very nice to give me more assistance. We're trying to go for the tracking shot, but sadly, he ends up managing to not get tracked there, and, well, he ends up getting shut down in the end anyway. We are currently detected, which makes me think, okay, what is looking at me? And in fact, it wasn't that SP1C, or it could have been the SP1C while he's still unspotted. But we spot the KV-3 at the back. There's the SP1C, just waiting on the reload. Sadly, the SP1C manages to get the shot in, but we can't quite get him. The Talon manages to only track damage us with his 217 pen APCR round. So we're kind of lucky there that he hit our side and didn't pen us. The SP1C actually drove round, but bounced, and then died for it. The VK101P put a big shot into us, though, which means we are now a one-shot for that VK101P, and we've got to be careful. We've loaded APCR to guarantee the penetrations on this guy, because 212 will go through the lower plate of a VK101P, but it won't go through his cupola. Our APCR at 259 will only really go through his cupola as well, so that's why we've loaded it. We did bounce off his side, but again, we're being as careful as possible. He's completely ignoring the IS Desmond Tutu that's just driven around his side. And unfortunately for us, that guy actually gets shut down. I'm not quite sure what happened. As you can see, we looked round the corner to see if we could see where the VK101P was looking, and he wasn't looking at us. So we take the opportunity to get a shot into the side of his turret. Again, putting a shot into his side, but limiting his chances to shoot us because he's very slow at pulling forwards. He fires, which means we've got all the opportunities in the world to put a shot through his cupola, and we possibly will actually out-reload him as well because we've got way better DPM than he has. He's still looking at the medium tank on my left, and we put the shot through his cupola to finish off that German tier 8 super heavy tank. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is a cruncher. Ramming speed. Oh. Well, no ramming speed for us, but we finished the game with a really good total there for the Wraith Panzer 58. The epic victory. 2 kills, 5.2k damage, 2.3k base XP, sorry, 2.7k assistance. Ace Tanker, the Pascucci's the high caliber. Yeah, 2.3k base XP, a really fantastic game there for the Wraith. Again, showing what it can do when you put it in that position to just keep the gun working. As long as you're keeping the gun working, limiting the amount of chances people to have to shoot you, this vehicle is fantastic because it's not the most well-armoured tank in the universe. Heat rounds can get absorbed by it. Like I said, I've had the Panzer 100 heat rounds get absorbed, but don't expect it to bounce anything because it won't if you do. But the gun is absolutely fabulous. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success.